Christopher.
Not Christopher, please.
Christopher.
Exactly. I will just connect on the topic we already had and talk about the impact indicator system we developed as a consortium. Us as Fraunhofer Austria as the work package leader in this work package. And I'm just showing the concepts and the framework we developed in order to help companies to track their path towards the factory of the future. Yeah, maybe just I brought 3 slides about Fraunhofer Austria because there's most of the time a misunderstanding about the wording of the Fraunhofer Institute, as also Massimiliano said. The Fraunhofer Gesellschaft is a big consortium about 68 institutes. So there's not one Fraunhofer Institute, but 68 at the moment with over 24,000 employees. And not every location is an own institute. And most of the institutes are located in Germany. In general, said the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft is the European leading applied research organization, so there's no bigger applied research organization in Europe. And the Fraunhofer Austria Research is a own individual legal entity in Austria, but it's not an institute of the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft. It's just a legal entity. But also, as all the Fraunhofer institutes, they are not non-profit organizations, so they are not focusing on earnings, etc. In Austria, we have 3 different facilities. We have a facility in Vienna, where I am from, which focus on production logistics management in general, but also the main topic, of course, is Industry 4.0, Factory of the Future. Then we have 2 other departments. A second one, which is cooperating with the Technology University in Graz, focuses on visual computing, all the technologies compared with augmented and virtual reality. And since about now 2 years, we have a new innovation center in Tyrol, in Wattens, which mainly focuses on the digital transformation. We have about, in some that's an old number, about now 60 employees in Austria focusing on these 3 topics. Yeah.
Christoph, sorry,
Yeah.
you said non-profit,
Yeah.
you are not supposed to
We're not allowed to make earnings. And we
or
can't
to
take it.
distribute dividends, sorry, because you make invoices.
Yeah, for sure, but just to survive. And we're not allowed to make earnings and to grow. And that's also why our mission is pictured in here. The mission of Fraunhofer, none of the less it's in Germany or in Austria, is to take on the research provided by university with a lower technical readiness level, and then to further develop that. That's why we call ourselves an applied research organization, and to further develop it till it's applicable in the industry. So we don't start at point 0, but we take new basic research and develop it further till it's applicable for the industry. Yeah, exactly. Focusing now on the work package 3, we also in our industry contacts and in our projects cooperating with industries mainly see the challenge for companies, besides the huge complexity of the topic Industry 4.0, that it's also very difficult for companies to evaluate the specific benefits of adopting practices in the field of Industry 4.0 or Factory of the Future. And that's why we aim to develop an indicator system to first measure the impact of technologies and practices, and also enable strategic management for this part of company strategy. In a first step, we analyzed current approaches, mostly named under the wording maturity levels, but in our opinion, we also developed Fraunhofer Austria also developed a maturity model at our own. But what these lack is to measure the impact of this adoption of technologies in the long term. So it's all these maturity models are very good in evaluate the current standing of a company, but it's not a controlling or strategic management tool in order to evaluate the benefits of these adoptions. So that's why we focused in the development of our impact in the system on a multi-criterial view. Of course, it's very important to evaluate the current maturity of your own company in the first step. But then we also integrated different perspectives to provide a holistic picture of the process in order to adapt technologies towards the factory of the future. We decided to orientate our approach to the IPOO framework, which mainly focuses on these 4 categories. The first category as seen here are the inputs, which we define as the kind of framework where a company is able to be innovative. It's more the strategy of a company, the organizational environment in which a company and its employees can behave and can innovate and adapt to Industry 4.0. Basically focusing on the critical success factors we identified in the work package 2. The second category is the processing system, so that are all the company's processes which are creating value, starting by the shop floor level with production and logistics processes, but also integrating human resource processes, innovation processes, because they are on the long term also creating value, because if you don't have the competent employees, you won't be that successful in adopting specific technologies. These processing systems lead to internal outputs, which mainly measures the performance directly of these processing systems. And then after that leads to the external outcomes. So that mainly are the company's missions. Of course, you mentioned that before, the main target of a company, and for a company to invest in a specific technology, it has to be successful on the market, or it has to decrease costs or increase earnings, and that's pictured in the last perspective. So the main target or the mission of the company. You also can integrate other missions like sustainability, reduction of waste, whatever the specific company strategy is. And in this perspective, we have mainly 2 kind of indicators, especially in the first field. We have qualitative self-assessment and qualitative self-assessment, but then try to connect those self-assessment tools to the KPIs in a quantitative way. Mainly here also shown now our 4 categories. The first one, as mentioned, is focusing on the critical success factors, which we identified, which Valerie already mentioned: strategy, technology, capacity for innovation, the ecosystem, support for innovation, the skills and change management. And in the work package 2, we derived specific guidelines, these 24 guidelines, which were connected to one of these critical success factors in order to improve their own company's maturity level in this specific field. Because in our opinion, it's very important that the framework of the company has the right mindset and orientation before they start to invest in new technologies. Because they have to open the mind of the employees, they have to develop the competencies of the employees, etc., in order to be successful in the long term. Here's just one extent of how this self-assessment can look or would look in the field of the skills and change management, where the company can evaluate their performance in these specific guidelines, evaluating their maturity level. 0 means we don't have this specific topic, 4 means we are very good in this specific topic. So for example, if the guideline, the mindset of our employees is open-minded towards the path of the factory of the future, that's a very good thing. But if a company sees their pretty much gap to higher numbers, that means that they have to derive actions in that aspect in order to be able to innovate. If we look now at the first part of the framework, we define the maturity level in each of these 5 critical success factors in this so-called qualitative assessment in order to gain a first insight in the company and their maturity. The second step, or the second part of our impact indicator systems, aims now to measure the impact of specific adoptions. so that the company can also control the timely staggered effect of their taking actions. So in these three categories, processing system, outputs and outcomes, we focus on quantitative key performance indicators in order to evaluate the performance in the specific fields. Of course, we cannot provide an extent of impact indicators which fits for all the companies. They have to be selected individually for each company because every company follows its own strategies. They are once delivering business to business and other companies producing business to customer. That's why all these KPIs have to be selected individually for a company. But just to show an extraction of possible indicators which can be implemented in our three-dimensional processing system outputs and outcomes. The processing system, as mentioned, focus on the performance of the production processes. For example, one of the classical key performance indicators is, for example, the lead time, the productivity, or the degree of automation. But we also want to focus on other processes in the company, like the innovation management, where you can track the time to market for new product development or the number of methods you use in the company in order to get a better performance in these processes. That's if you improve this category, you will see the results in the internal outputs. That means if you are able to boost your innovation management and to get a better performance out of your innovation management, that will directly lead to a higher patents number per employee, for example, or a higher new product rate. And so you can connect the timely staggered effects of your actions you take in the framework of your company and analyze that based on the correlations you see here. And finally, of course, you want to satisfy the company's mission in order to get higher earnings or better return of investment. But you also can integrate other dimensions like sustainability, key performance indicators, if that's a main mission for the company. Yeah. If you look now at the holistic framework or the whole framework, that's the complete model. So we start at self-evaluating the maturity level on a more softer aspect, focusing on soft skills, on the strategy of the capacity for innovation in a company, in order to derive the first actions you can take, and then focus to track the impact of these adoptions and actions taken in order to track them, how they are going to affect in the long term the outcomes of your company. And that's the main target of this model. In order to summarize the main benefits for a company to implement such a model is, of course, the first step, the self-assessment, which is also provided by other maturity models. But the main task is to really be able to monitor the progress towards the Factory of the Future in order to provide a tool for the strategic management towards the Factory of the Future based on these mentioned feedback loops, showing this timely staggered effects, because actions I take today won't be or will not have impact on my financial flows tomorrow. That will take some time, and that's what this indicator system is trying to provide for a company. Yes, that's one. Thanks for your attention. Any questions?
Yes. Up to you, Jens.
It's anyway up to your question in the beginning, right? You were looking for in the first presentation, I think Michael was looking for some benchmarks. The question for me is, and I think that was also in your mind, is do we have some best practices, or is that also kind of backed up by best practices? Because I think some of the interlinkages between the improvement of KPIs related to innovation, for example, I think that needs to be kind of backed up by some...
Of course it has, and that would be the next step to implement kind of this impact indicator system in companies, and then try to evaluate the benefits on a best practice or on a use case. But we didn't have the resources or the company
Yes,
in this research project now, but what we did is to implement these critical success factors, which in our opinion are the main aspect for a company in order to be able to move fast and to innovate fast towards the factory of the future, based on the surveys and best practices interviews we conducted in Work Package 2. But we did not evaluate the whole system on a use case, not yet. But we hope that might change.
It is addressed to which size company? Because it's
In general, for every company, I mean, we had workshops with that, and in my opinion, for a startup company, SMEs, and but also for bigger companies. In my opinion, as bigger the company gets, the more you need to control your company by measures or by figures or by KPIs. I would not recommend or we talked with many startups in the workshop we conducted, I would not see it necessary for a startup with like 5 employees to implement the whole intake indicator system. But I think if it reaches a number of like 20 to 50 employees, whatever, that might make sense. But I can't tell it. It depends on the specific indicators you use. It also can be used just as an evaluation to investigate if we're going into the right direction.
The feeling is that an exhaustive and very well done analysis, but it will be heavy for, at least for the Italian space, I know. Because you have to talk with the boss.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why we say it's a strategic management tool. It's not focusing on the shop floor or optimizing there, but just
50 employees, companies, there is one boss and some executives.
But at least it gets kind of a transparency in the process, so you can evaluate the progress you make and you can quantify it. I think that's the main target. Just to say, yeah, we have a robot here, we are now in this performance here, doesn't make much sense if you can't provide the benefits from these measures taken.
Methodology is for everybody, but the impression is relatively. And you have the self-assessment, you say.
Yeah, it depends. You can do the based on workshops with us or whatever, but in our opinion, it's just focusing on getting a first overview inside of the company's capabilities of these critical success factors and the guidelines.
Applause.
So, no problem. From, let's say, some of the indicators like lead time and so on and so forth, I can actually get them automatically out of an ERP system, for example, right? Yeah. So, my question would be, let's say, to which extent do you think from the framework, how many of them can be kind of retrieved automatically and how many do we have to do it manually?
It depends on the company.
Yeah,
not
sure.
every company.
But
has
if
the
you have
same.
a normal ERP system in place, let's say.
It hardly depends on what are the key performance indicators you try to evaluate, because that's why we say the selection of KPIs is also a very individual progress, because you also have to need the available databases in order to not make a huge effort.
Let's take over your overall framework. I mean, whatever they choose is. Do you have a feeling on how many of them?
At the moment, too less. Maybe 60-70%,
okay.
But too less. There also has to be taking effort in providing information in the right time. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry. Another question is, I'm really impressed about the very straightforward model calculation you had. What I'm curious on is, have you already did a kind of pilot study in applying that in one of the other countries?
But that's what Jens Schumann asked. Unfortunately, not yet.
Not yet.
We also focusing in some projects of our own in the innovation management process. There we have kind of set up simultaneously approach, but only on this process. So the holistic framework of trying to steer a whole company towards effectively we didn't implement it.
Lisa, up to you. You bring us in the video.